girls. When I open girls, I'm not thinking, I really want to get this girl. I'm not thinking, oh God, I hope she likes me. I'm thinking, I dare you to reject me. Go ahead, try it. See if it works, because it's not going to. I'm so charming, it can't work. And I'll prove that to you if you want me to. Go ahead, test me. I actively encourage it. Go ahead, I dare you. Of course, like I said, this isn't anything that I'm saying. This is all what I'm communicating through my subtext, through the way I react, the way that I say what I say to her. I'm encouraging her. I want her to test me. Because when I do that, they usually don't. I nip it in the bud. Not only do I do that, the way that I do this is I burn my beliefs into her eyes. I burn them in there. Not laser eyes. Jim noticed I was doing it the night. And that's what I do. When I go in to talk to a girl, I look her right in the eyes and I burn that belief into it. So when she responds to me, when she reacts in a certain way, maybe it's negative in a shit test type of way, or in a test type of way, I'm going to burn that belief into her eyes. I'm going to look her right in the eyes and very confidently react the way that I do. That says, go ahead, I dare you to keep doing this. In fact, I want you to, because I want to show you how good I am at this. I'm gonna checkmate you every single time. There's nothing that you can say to me that's gonna affect me. How do you do that? It's really fucking easy. Remember I said earlier, the simple, most subtle reactions are the best because they hint at something greater. So I don't even have to prove it. I don't even have to pass her test because merely by the way of acting like I am going to pass makes me pass the test. The simplest answer is the best answer. Channeling. This is interesting. I watched a lot of Marlon Brando, early Marlon Brando. Write this down. Watch the movie The Wild One. Anyone seen that? Fucking awesome. See, notice the guys that have seen it are the guys that actually study seduction. Yeah. The Wild One. Amazing. The reason why it's amazing, Marlon Brando did this in almost all his early roles. Everything Marlon Brando says in that movie is fucking oozing with sexual confidence. It's oozing with this subtext. He's a master at subtext. This is why a lot of really great actors admire Brando so much. He has this amazing ability to create layers and layers and layers of communication into everything that he says. Every actor that I've ever known knows that fucking Brando is one of the best actors of all time because he's capable of doing this. He can add so much into so little. It's fucking amazing. Watch The Wild One. But this channeling that I'm talking about, a lot of the time when I was thinking about sort of how I wanted to appear in terms of my physical presence, the way that I moved, a lot of the time I'd try to be like, there's a couple that I would do. One would be Marlon Brando. I'd think, what would Brando do? Another was, I'd think, this one's kind of funny, but it works really well, is I'd think, Jack Nicholson high. This sounds funny at first, right? What would Jack Nicholson, if he was high, act like? Right? You kind of get that little swagger, that confidence, that raised eyebrow, that sort of look of like, I don't give a shit and I'm just out to fuck with people look on your face. I'd do that. Now, the thing with channeling is, all great artists, whether it be painting, or even acting in some cases, or anything where they create something, all great artists usually say that their art doesn't come from them. It doesn't come from them. It comes from somewhere else, and they're just able to channel it. It flows through them, and they're able to put that onto paper if it's a painting, or onto screen if it's a performance. It doesn't actually come from them. It comes from somewhere else. So a lot of the time when I tell people, channel this person, or channel, look at Brandon, look at David Duchovny's character in Californication, look at all these sort of role models. They think, well, that's not me. I'm not really that person, or I'm not, I don't want to act like somebody else. Well, that's not what it is. What it is when you channel that person, you're not being them. You're channeling the same thing that they were channeling. You're taking the same thing that they took, and you're filtering it through you. You think Marlon Brando was always fucking, that confident growing up? No, he wasn't. He just learned how to be it through experiences and stuff like that. And he learned to become this person that he was. In fact, he was known in real life as being actually not very much like his characters on screen. He was a very sweet guy. He was very, wasn't necessarily that seductive. He was just a very sweet, really easygoing guy. And so those characters that he played, he channeled that. And that's what you have to do. It's not about being somebody else. It's about, as we say in Love Systems, it's about being the best possible version of you. So when you channel that, you know, that Brando, that Jack Nicholson high, you're not that person. You're just taking those beliefs that they had, those values, those things in their head, and you're channeling it through you and emitting it through your body language and your physicalities. So like I said, don't think that you're just doing a performance. In fact, I wouldn't say that at all. It's going to become very fake if you do that. You're channeling it. So channel it. Like I said, watch The Wild One. Maybe later on when we do the bonus stuff, I'll go over some more things. We have a Q&A later too, so I'll go over some if you guys have questions about things to look at. Using your voice to emphasize your subtext. The way that I do this, as I mentioned earlier, slowing it down, adding pauses between every word that you say. You can make what you're saying have a little bit more meaning, a little bit extra sensuality to what you're saying. Makes what you're saying seem a little bit more important, like it's worth paying attention to. You're a spectacle, right? Good. So that's the last thing I wanted to say. That is my talk on advanced body language. Is there any other questions about, I guess, are we good for time or is there time for a few questions?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it too. I mean, is there any questions about everything I just talked about? There's no questions, no questions. But
how does what you were saying there about just general attitude relate to day game?
Day game? We're actually going to have a keychain. Another instructor is going to be talking a bit about day game and about how body language relates to day game. He's giving a primer on that. So, if you're sticking around, he'll be able to go over some of that sort of stuff with you. But I mean, I guess in terms of what I just said, you can't get away with as much of it in the daytime because you're not really in an environment where that seductive quality would really translate that as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're not in the dark, you're not having drinks, you're not in that environment where you're dressed nice and stuff like that necessarily. So little things can work. The sort of the look of mild arousal on your face as you're talking to her, that sort of look of judgment, like you're sort of adjudicating her, that works really well, regardless daytime, nighttime. But the the seductive like walking and movements and shit doesn't really work that well in daytime. You're just going to see it from a mile away and think you're a player. So that sort of stuff isn't going to work as well. But I mean, if you just look at it, it kind of makes sense in terms of, I mean, you can kind of get a good idea of what would work and what wouldn't, just based on these sort of logistics of where you are. So just keep that in mind. But like I said, keychain's going to be a little bit about that later. So yeah.
So on the one hand, it's like every single movement should be a spectacle, and on the other hand, it's like don't give a shit about anything.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that every movement you make should be a spectacle. What I'm saying is slow down your movements, and this is the problem sometimes with this, is that you can't really exaggerate this. Because if you exaggerate it, they're going to think that you're high or really drunk, right? It's going to be very, very subtle. So you got to practice this. You got to make it become part of a little bit of a part of who you are. So practice it until you get it right. And like I said, you can gauge how it's working by the look on their face and why the reaction you're getting from it. But I mean, to answer your question, not giving a shit and this presence thing, they kind of go together. Because when you slow your movement down and you move languidly and stuff like that, you're actually almost communicating that you don't give a shit. Because you're not being reactionary. You're not having jerky movements and doing things where it's reacting to her. So they do kind of go together. But the other thing about it is that when you're poeticizing your presence, that's never really explicitly communicated. That's always just sort of implied through your movement. So not giving a shit has more to do with the way you react and the spectacle stuff has more to do with the way you move within that. That makes sense. Yeah. One more question. All right, one more. Go ahead. That's all right.
About the visualization, you do that only in field, or you do it in your free time?
Physical escalation?
No, visualization.
Oh, visualization. I do it for everything. Everything that I do.
And you do it at home by yourself?
I'm doing it right now.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I do though. I do it all the time now. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not like, it's not like I'm going to brush my teeth and I'm visualizing how awesome I'm going to brush my teeth or anything. But whenever I'm trying to do something that requires thought, requires sort of precision, requires talent, then yes, I'm going to visualize it. I'm going to try to visualize myself doing it, and that's going to help. So yeah, that's good. All right, good. So guys, this represents sort of the we're at the end of the main core of what this the main sort of core content of what this program is. Beyond words, the art of body language and physical escalation. What's coming up next? We have some bonuses for you guys. Wanted to sweeten the deal a little bit. So we've included, we have a couple guest speakers. Actually, we have Keychain, who's at the back there. He's going to be talking about rapid physical escalation, which is essentially spotting the shortcuts in escalation and taking advantage of them. There is a bit of a risk versus reward there. Like I said, 5.0 talked about physical escalation. Keychain is going to be talking more about how to spot the shortcuts, how to take those, bridge some gaps in there in terms of going very speedy with it. He's also doing day game, as I mentioned. And I imagine he's going to go into a little bit about body language in the course of day game as well. He's written articles on day game as well, so I imagine he'll get into sort of a primer on that. Versetti is going to be speaking about beliefs. He has a presentation on beliefs that he'll be doing, which I've read his article about it. It's very good, so we'll be getting into that. As well, I'll be doing a short primer on online game, which is, I have a book coming out in the future, so I just want to give you guys a little bonus. I'm going to give you a little primer on that. If any of you guys are interested, I'm just going to go over sort of the basics of that, give you guys a little bit of that. So, but like I said, this makes up the core, the end of the main presentations. So I want to thank the speakers we had, 5.0, Versetti, who will be up again, but we're in a round of applause. I'd also like to thank the invisible man in this sort of program, this content, who is Mr. M, Jim. He played a huge role in this. None of this would be happening right now if it wasn't for him. He's decided to stay behind the camera for this whole thing, but believe me when I say he's helped out tremendously, not just with the organization, but with the content, and helping all the presenters in terms of contributing to their content and make sure that everything got communicated. So, round of applause for him as well. All right, so we're gonna have a short break, I imagine, and then we're gonna kick off the extra content, and then we'll have a Q&A after that. So stick around. All right.